Right, that's a question I definitely get a lot. That's probably my key coaching question. That I get that literally every time I'm out, whether to use micros down the edge or ground bait. So I'm definitely a micros. I prefer micros in most of the styles fishing I do because I most fish F1s. But I suppose when it comes down to it, the big deciding factor of whether to use a mix of ground bait or whether to use micros is going to be the bottom. Do you know, that's a big thing. In fact, the bottom of the species are how many F1s are present, whether it's F1s and carp or whether it's just carp. If it was just or it was mostly F1s, I'd always go with micros. I just find that it's just better for me. I'm a lot more confident feeding micros, fishing an expander or a bit of corn. That seems to be the way. But if it was a mixed or just carp, then yeah, the bottom's key. How the bottom is in the edge when I'm fishing is going to be the main factor in what I decide to use, which is going to be a bit of a pain because obviously you're going to want your bait prepped before you're plumbed up in an ideal world. But if you can do it the other way or you can have it all ready, that's much better. But yeah, my main thinking would be, if I was to use just micros on their own, then I want to use them on a sloping bottom. Yeah, whenever it's at a decent incline down the edge, which quite often it is. Because with micros, what I don't want is a build-up of bait. If I were to feed micros on a flat bottom, then even when I only put a small pile in, which is how I'd always want to fish down the edge, I never ever put big pots in down the edge if I can help it. What I want is the fish to come in and eat the vast majority of my bait. Yeah, if I feed that on a flat bottom, there's always going to be some bait it misses. Once I hook it, it's going to, the bait it has in it's always going to get dispersed all over the place. If that happens on a flat bottom, then the bait sort of stays in my peg. So I end up with a build-up of micros all over my peg if it were flat. Whereas if it's an incline, then my pellet's going to drift off down the bottom. I mean, they're going to fall down the slope. Any that, once I've been sat there with my pile, once I've struck and the fish has upset them, any leftover pellets are going to go back down the slope. I mean, they're not going to stay in my main feed area, which is where I want the fish to be visiting. You find that when you've got a slope, the carp always want to visit, or the vast majority of carp want to visit the top of the slope as long as it's deep enough. As long as you've got 8, 10, 12 inches, the fish are going to want to feed in that sort of incline, right in the groove sort of thing, where your bait's going to mostly build up, so they can get the most bait they possibly can with a minimal effort just by swimming along that line. That's where I want to fish all the time, and in turn that'll help the fish come in, like I say, and move all my bait. So micros are my choice for that, because I'd rather use micros because it gives me a much tighter pile and stays where I want it a lot better. But at the same time, they'll drift off and they'll go down the slope. And they won't accumulate in my feed area, which would be the reason I use ground bait. I mean, if I end up with a nice flat bottom, like Larford comes into it. Larford's the venue I'm really thinking of on the grassy bank. By using ground bait, it disperses better. I mean, I've got a favourite ground bait. I use krill and I use carp blend and the spotted fin stuff, which is very, very fine, but I'll mix it really, really heavy. And what that'll do in turn is that, again, I'll put my little pile in, and when a fish, flies do me everything. When a fish disperses my pile, when I've struck and it's moved all my pile all over the place, it'll disperse really well. It'll be really fine particles all over the place. There won't be any solid pile of bait dotted all over my peg. You know what I mean? It'll almost disappear. It'll still be there in little tiny particles all over the place, but there won't be anything for the fish to home in on. There won't be a lump of bait for them to feed, which in turn that they'll still come and find my new pile. As soon as I introduce a pile that's worthwhile, that's a gobful for them, they're always going to come to that. So ground bait can be a lot better for flat bottoms when I've not got an incline. That'd be my answer, to be honest. Yeah, if I've got a slopey bottom, micros. If I've got a flat bottom, I tend to use ground bait.